Everybody, it's Phyllis here with the next video in the series of how to develop a daily writing practice. So the three videos in the series are how to get started with writing, how to develop a daily writing practice, and why to develop a daily writing practice if you're not a writer. And I will post links to those videos so that you can see the whole series. This is aimed at my mastermind group, but if you're watching this and you're not in my mastermind group, enjoy, and I hope you get something valuable out of it. So a daily writing practice is pretty simple. You just have to write every day. And in the first video I talk about the 5 essentials for getting started. And this is about how to make it a daily thing. So my big secret to success for pretty much any new habit is to start it first thing in the morning. That way nothing else gets in the way. So what I do is I make a big strong cup of coffee and I go back upstairs to this room and I sit in this chair and I write. I write 3 pages. And that's something that works for me. Sometimes I write more than 3 pages if I'm really on a roll when I get to the bottom of the 3rd page. But the minimum is 3 pages. When I worked full-time, I trained myself to get up a half an hour early so that I would have time to do this because I really wanted to incorporate this into my day. And also, starting first thing in the morning is a great way of telling yourself that you're prioritizing this time for you. Prioritizing yourself, prioritizing your time with yourself that will help ground your business and your project idea. And I cover that more in the next video, why to develop the daily writing practice, or 5 benefits to developing a daily writing practice. If you miss in the morning, if you just don't have time, if you have one of those mornings, you can write after work or write at nighttime, or here's an alternative. Bring a notebook and a pen with you and find 5-minute chunks throughout the day to write. So you might be able to grab 5 minutes in the morning while you're waiting for your coffee or your toast or something, or that might not be a possibility. But consider doing that instead of checking your email if it isn't absolutely necessary to have your email checked first thing in the morning. Or bring the notebook with you to work, grab 5 minutes at lunchtime. Go back out into your car, go to a park, go to the restroom. I don't know what your work situation is, but find 5 minutes and use your phone as a timer and sit down and write for 5 minutes. And then again in the evening. You might only get 15 minutes in this way, or 10 minutes, but definitely write before you go to bed. Try to go for 15 minutes or a half an hour, whatever it is that you're shooting for, but try to do it before bed, and here's why. Because you're going to end up downloading and dumping your whole day onto the page, and that's great, because then when you get up tomorrow morning, you're not going to have that backlog. You're going to have that all, you will have gone through that once. It'll still come out again if it's still rolling around in your head, but at least you get a chance to start fresh in the morning. So just keep trying every day to start first thing. Do as much as you can without throwing your life into turmoil, and then do a little more at another time during the day, lunchtime or before bed. And actually, this is a slightly different topic, but I have found that writing before bed is a great way to get a good night's sleep. And what I do with that is I actually ask myself, what's likely to worry me tonight? What's likely to keep me awake? Or what's likely to wake me up with worry or anxiety? And I write that down. And that's a great way of handling overdrive mind and worrisome situations that could keep you awake. It's very important, here's some other tips and pointers. It's very important to not worry about what you're writing. I wrote for years and years and years, I'm not exaggerating, decades, without worrying about what I was writing. It was simply the act of taking that time for myself and dumping the stuff on the page. And it was the best way that I could demonstrate my commitment to taking this time for myself and to discovering who I was. And it just so happened that who I was a writer. But the same would be true if you were a scientist, an illustrator, a mother, a chef, whatever you are. This is a great way to just demonstrate your commitment to that and to find out what that is. But do not worry about what you're writing. It's not about producing finished product. Some common experiences to have. These are, many things can happen, including dumping your entire cup of coffee on the floor, which happens to me periodically. That's because I'm sound asleep. And what I do is I go back and make another strong cup of coffee because I really, really love that first cup of coffee. Everyone after that is just not measure up, so I don't bother with it. But that first cup, I've never gotten tired of it, so I just keep doing it. And it's really the same with the writing in the morning. I actually never get tired of it. It's not a chore. It's not something people say, oh, you're so disciplined. I actually enjoy it. I really love doing it. At first it was really rough and ragged to get up a half an hour early to allow that time, but it actually showed me that there's lots of time outside of the workday to do what you want to do, if you prioritize it. The trick is prioritizing it. So one of the things that can happen is that suddenly everything in the world becomes more interesting than writing. Suddenly it seems, absolutely essential that you fill in the blank, polish the silver, mow the lawn, get in touch with your long-lost cousin who happens to be turning 60 today. There's almost nothing like making a commitment to having everything else suddenly come crowding in. And just use that as an opportunity to really look at that commitment and make the commitment. Every commitment comes with the upside is the benefit of the commitment, and that that's what we talk about. The downside is what you are choosing to let go, at least for that moment. You're actually choosing to let the email go, to not catch up on Facebook, to let the dishes sit in the sink, to call your cousin later and risk actually forgetting. You're going to miss out on something, or you're going to feel like you're missing out on something, and you're choosing to do this anyway. So just, be realistic that you are, when you choose something, you're not choosing something else, and just acknowledge that and see what that is. And I would say, if you're really interested in making a commitment, the best way to strengthen that resolve and to strengthen that your will is to exercise it, is to do it anyway. And do what you think is possible, not what you think is impossible. So if you think 5 minutes will be difficult but possible, do 5 minutes. If you think 15 minutes is your thing, is the best you can go for that. You might have to work up to it. You definitely will have to work up to it. Just give yourself permission to know from experience whether this is the right commitment for you to make, this, whether you really want this daily writing practice, by doing it, rather than deciding in advance that it's not the right thing. Because if you do that, you may decide it's not the right thing for you, but you'll be sure. You'll have certainty. You won't be wondering, well, did I just avoid that, or was I just afraid of what I might find? Just face it and do it. And then if you don't like it, you can stop doing it. Another likely thing to happen is that big, strong feelings will come up. And this is a lot of times why people don't want to write, because they're afraid that big, strong feelings are going to come up, and they are. And the thing to do is to write them down, is to write right through them and not let them throw you off. Yes, you can grab a tissue, but just keep crying and keep writing. You only need one hand to write with, you don't need any hands to cry with. Just allow yourself to have your feelings and write them down honestly. And then you can look at them. And this again is what I'll cover in the next video about why you should do this regularly. But I'll just tell you now, and I'm sure you can imagine, that when you write it down, you get a chance to look at it and it starts to change. It goes out of here and down onto the paper, and it starts to change for you. And you have some agency over what happens with that situation or those feelings. And a lot of times, don't forget, the word emotion has motion in it. They're meant to move. And a lot of times I just write right through feelings and then they're gone. Then I'm free from them. And when I read it back later, I get that I was upset, but the emotion has lost its charge. So just write anyway. And there are no wrong feelings. There are no wrong words. There are no wrong feelings. This is about allowing yourself to be. Another common thing to have happen is out of nowhere brainstorms and inspirations. And the thing to do is to write them down. And what I do is I write stuff like that down and I underline it and I put a little star in the margin so that I can find it later. And then at some point during the day or the following day, I go back and I look for those stars and those underlines. And I see if there's an action that I need to take. But just write those things down, write them all down. Some of my blog posts come right out in my morning writing. The whole thing is right there. Ideas for the name of a book, the idea for a project, the idea for this mastermind group. It all came through my writing. This is my avenue. I've created a field. It's an energetic field. By sitting down every day and doing it, I've created a pathway. I've created a pathway for communicating with myself, with my higher power, with whatever it is that is directing all of this. And so write that down. Just write it down. It's a gift. Another likely thing to happen is big, dry, empty, silent spaces where it seems like you have nothing to say. And the thing to do there is to write that down and describe what it feels like to be in this place. It feels like I have nothing to say. And how does it feel to feel that way? How does it feel to have nothing to say? It reminds me of the time I blank. I wish I felt blank. Just keep writing. Write through that experience. Repeat, I have nothing to say, I'm empty, I'm tired, I'm blank, I just want to go back to sleep. Just let yourself keep expressing from that place, wherever you are. It's very important, and this is another pointer here for succeeding at this. It's very important to be a safe person to write for. It's inevitable that your judging mind is going to come in and say, whoa, girl, that's off limits, or you sure you want to write that down, or whoa, you really feel that way? That's kind of something, isn't it? Some judgment about it. Guilt. I really shouldn't feel this way. Well, guess what? Write that down. Write it down. I'm a jerk for feeling this way. Part of me feels like I should just give up. Part of me feels like the biggest imposter on earth. I am such an asshole. Just write it down. Write it down and write right through it. Don't let it throw you off. It's just thoughts. It's not the truth. There's many truths. It's not the only truth. Just write it down. Expect to hit strong feelings, and I did say this before. I just want to read something from the blog post here, and you will find the blog post. I'll put a link to that as well, where I write all this down in complete sentences and like structured. When I started free writing in morning pages, I thought I would never come to the end of self-deprecation, and that is true. I went on and on and on with self-deprecation. I had tapped a lifetime of pent-up feelings that had never been acknowledged or named. I had never had the means to know them. I had to allow them to come out. It was like pulling a shard of glass out of my finger. And then it was over. I was conversational with myself. I started to discover a voice in there, a sensibility, preferences, a worldview, a particular and unique person, neither perfect nor defective, but human. I discovered my humanity by writing down everything that was inside me. Those reams of negativity, while I wouldn't go back and read them today, are precious to me. They represent the painful birthing of a person. They record the process of becoming real to myself. Another common thing to happen is expect your life to change. In the process of becoming real to yourself, of listening to yourself, of expressing yourself, you will realize that you need to do some things. You may need to change some things. You may simply carry yourself differently. And you may respond to situations differently out of this newfound connection with the real you. So you don't have to tell other people that you can't stand X, Y, and Z, but now you know it and it's not a secret from you anymore. So the next time X, Y, and Z comes up, you know what to do. You know how to distance yourself, you know that it's not good for you, and you steer clear. If you feel you in a rut, and this can happen after years or weeks or months or whatever it is for you of writing, give yourself a new challenge. Learn how to write poetry. Explore a particular topic that is a little bit edgy for you, like addiction or sexuality or death or relationships, love, intimacy, something that's a little bit harder to deal with. Give yourself a writing challenge. Write autobiographically, make up characters, write fiction, write poetry. Read more widely and imitate what you're reading. Put yourself in an uncomfortable place with your writing. Now that you have navigated that first uncomfortable hurdle of developing a daily writing practice and sitting down and facing yourself every day and facing your life and facing your reality every day, you might be more comfortable with that process. So now you can put yourself in a little bit more uncomfortable place with your writing. Right now I'm taking a writing class, the first one I've taken since college. I don't like it at all. Honestly, I don't like being in the class. I don't like having assignments. And it's putting me face to face with some insecurities that it's high time I dealt with. And I'm challenging myself to write fiction as part of my daily routine, which is also really uncomfortable, and it puts me right back in that beginner place, which is it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to be a beginner. It really is. So start by acknowledging that. And happy discovering to you. I hope this helps, and I hope that if you have any questions, perhaps you've tried to do daily writing before and it hasn't really worked out for you. I hope that you will put that in the comments. Ask your questions in the comments. Answer me this. What would it take for you to be twice as satisfied as you are right now with your writing? What would it take? What have you encountered? If you were going to do this now, what are your obstacles? Tell me that in the comments too. We can have an ongoing discussion about this, but I would love to know what's on your mind about this. And if you decide to do a daily writing practice, which I came very close to requiring, but it's hard to require things of people who are grown-ups. Let me know how it's going. Tell me how it's going. What are you hoping for? What are you getting out of it? Okay, that's this video, and thank you for sticking around, and stay tuned for if you want to go right into 5 reasons why you should have a daily writing practice, or the benefits of doing that for yourself. It's right here. And okay, get writing, get your fast pen, get your notebook, get your timer, find your place, and make your commitment, and start today. Thank you.